part of the reason for giving these 3 questions on the test in a multiple choice format is because sometimes, you know, it's kind of like a test-taking strategy. Just like, you know, if you have an equation in a multiple choice format, sometimes you're just going to take those answers and plug them in until you find the right one. Well, there's other strategies too. Now, first I'll work through it without the strategy, and then I'll show you how you could put it in the calculator, which would probably help you pick the right answer without doing this. This is an absolute value less than. Whether it's less than or equal to, you're going to do the same thing. But if you remember, the first step to solving any absolute value equation or inequality is to isolate, just like it is with logarithms and exponentials. How do I isolate the absolute value? Add 4, right? Add 4, add 4. So now we have the absolute value of x plus 3 is less than or equal to 3. Okay, once it's isolated, you have to do something to get rid of the absolute value symbols, because you cannot do algebra with the absolute value symbols there. And for an absolute value less than, the correct thing to do is to turn it into a 3-part inequality that looks like this. Negative 3 is less than or equal to x plus 3 is less than or equal to 3. Right? You're taking that number and you're making it the opposite on this side. What it's saying is this expression has a value in between negative 3 and 3. It's greater than the negative, greater than or equal to the negative 3. It's less than or equal to the 3. It's both. Okay? Now, could you do that with 2 different inequalities? You could, but this is really the way you're supposed to be doing that. And even the answers you're going to see on the test will never be written with 2 inequalities. It'll be written as a 3-part inequality. Right. Now, once you have the 3-part inequality, no more absolute value symbols, right? Then you're going to solve for the variable in the middle. How do I isolate the x in the middle on this one? Subtract 3. If I subtract 3 here, I subtract 3 here, and I subtract 3 here. Now I have negative 6 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 0. And if I graph that, it would look like negative 6 on the left, 0 on the right. Would I use open or closed circles? Closed. And then what it's telling me is the x, which is going to be represented by shading, is in between those 2, right? It's all in there. That's what any absolute value less than looks like. It's an interval in the middle of the number line is covered, the ends are not covered. Now, you can do this in the calculator, right? The absolute value inequalities go in the calculator quite easily. Clear. Right, so you go up to here. Let me clear that so I can do it with you. All right, I'm going to put this in the calculator on the y equals line. Right there, I hit y equals, and on the first line, first thing I want to put in is the absolute value of x plus 3. So where do you find absolute value brackets in the calculator? Say again? Yeah, you could go like this, math, and then arrow over to the num, and you can find it there. There's another place you could find it that's even easier. I don't think so. You're saying it's on the right? No, not that. Here's the other thing you can do. You hit the alpha key, and then hit the window. And they give you a few things that come up. The first one is absolute value. Alpha window, and then just hit 1. There's your absolute value symbols. Either way. Or you know where you can find down here on the 0, it says catalog above. You can find any function down there. If you don't know which menu it's in, any menu item is in the catalog. All right, so I need to put in the x plus 3 there. Now, in order to get out of the absolute value, right arrow. Now I'm going to say subtract 4. I don't even have to isolate, right? Don't even have to isolate. Okay, now I need to put in the less than or equal to symbol. Where are all those symbols? Where are all the inequality symbols? If you look above the math, it says test. It's in the test menu. So go like the second, math, and there they all are. Pick the one that you want. We need the last one, which is 6. And it's less than or equal to -1. Okay, now if I graph this, it's going to give me the shading on the x-axis, right? There is no the y-axis doesn't mean anything to us now. It's just using the x-axis, and you can see the shading looks like it's going from 0 to -6, 0 to -6. Right? And you could even like look in the table of values here, and what you'll see is where the function, where the shading is, like at x equals 0, it's 1. That's because the shading is there. Right? It's at 0, -1, -2, -3, 4, 5, and 6. But it's not at -7. So it goes everywhere from -6 to 0. Now, if I didn't have or equal to, then it would be from -1 to -5. It wouldn't include the endpoints if I didn't do that. But probably from looking at the graph, you could match up, especially on a multiple choice test. You should be able to match up that graph with the 4 options that you've got.